Good morning and welcome. I'm both humbled and honored to begin my work as acting superintendent of Jefferson County Public Schools. As have many employees of this district, I've dedicated the majority of my professional life to serving the students of JCPS in the city of Louisville. As I've recounted before, I started at Shawnee High School exactly 20 years ago. After 9 years at Wagner High School, I was fortunate to lead Jeffersontown High School for 8 years and Doss the following 2 years. Not only have I had the opportunity to work in 4 different high schools, but I've also been honored to work with the great teachers, administrators, bus drivers, nutrition workers, clerks, instructional assistants, security monitors, and other great employees of Jefferson County Public Schools. As a community, we are very fortunate to have so many educators dedicated to the success of the students of JCPS. As an educator who has spent 20 years in this system, and 10 as a high school principal, I believe that I have a good understanding of where we need to go as a district in order to improve all schools within this system. I laid out that plan to members of our school board when interviewed. I would like to take this opportunity once again to thank our school board members who have given me the opportunity to implement that vision in JCPS. I also want to thank the JCPS community and our city community at large for the incredible outpouring of support that I have received since being named acting superintendent nearly 6 weeks ago. It has been inspirational to me to see how many people in this community are invested in the success of JCPS. Without a doubt, my #1 priority will be to work with the school level and central office leaders to improve the academic climate and culture within all of our schools and facilities. I believe that I have a positive track record of improving culture, climate, and morale within schools, and I plan to do that across the district. Recent survey data shows us that culture and morale within our schools is at the lowest it's been in years. There are numerous research studies that show that a positive culture and healthy academic learning climate lead to meaningful school experiences for children and increased student achievement. A toxic school culture does the opposite. It leads to negative trends in student achievement, behavior, and morale. I am committed to improving the culture and climate of all of our schools. In order to improve culture, climate, and morale within our schools, my #1 priority will be to make sure that every employee feels supported in their specific role and has the tools they need to be successful. In this district, we should never have teachers that feel they do not have the supplies, tools, support, or professional development to provide the absolute best instruction to every single one of our students. Results of the Comprehensive School Survey demonstrated that teachers do not feel that central office effectively supports schools or manage funds in an efficient way. Improvements in this area will be priority #1 for me. A second essential priority will be in the area of making Vision 2020 alive and a reality in all of our schools through the development of deeper learning concepts. Throughout my entire career as a principal, I have had a laser-like focus on high student engagement in schools. With high levels of student engagement, students and schools will be effective and increase student achievement. Without these, achievement will not occur. To me, deeper learning means to provide students the opportunity to apply what they have learned in a real-world, relevant way. I will work to ensure that all schools are implementing deeper learning concepts within their classrooms. Finally, we'll be striving to increase communication throughout our organization and throughout our schools. One example will be these regular press briefings that we will hold from this point forward every 2 weeks. Today we are in Stewart Auditorium. Future press briefings we hope to hold at school locations throughout the district. We have big issues ahead of us as a district. We have the results of the KDE audit on the horizon, review of student assignment plan, facilities plan, charter schools, and a new accountability system all occurring in the near future. Whether I am here for the short term or the long term, I am committed to being a passionate leader who confronts these issues head on. I believe I'm the right person to lead JCPS into the future. Once again, it's a privilege and an honor to lead the nearly 101,000 students and 16,000 employees of JCPS. this community will find no one that is more passionate about the success of this school district than I am. I thank you for your time. I'll now be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Dr. Pollio, how important is it for you to get out of the gate quickly and run with this job?
Well, I think it's very important. I mean, I think, as I said before, we are at a critical time and a critical juncture in our district. I think staff members and community members need to see that I'm committed and serious about the work that we're doing, that I'll be present in schools and make sure that we begin to move this district forward in a serious way. So just like as a principal, it is critical to start that way, I think it is the same as a superintendent.
You mentioned that one of your fifth priorities is financial management and making people feel. Do you have any concrete steps to move towards that, to move towards changes there?
Well, I think number one, we're going to work right off the bat. We've already started doing this to make sure small things. We heard from teachers in survey results and conversations that we've had, and I'm sure that you've had, that many times teachers feel that they struggle to get the things that they need to be successful. Sometimes it can be as simple as paper, supplies, things like that. We want to address that immediately and make sure that does not happen. As I said before, I just don't think that should ever happen in our district. One of the most important concepts for me with morale and school culture is that employees have the things that they need in order to be successful. One of those is supplies, but there's some other things also, having a clear focus, vision, and mission within a school or an organization. That's critical that we work with schools on that end of it too. Also that teachers and staff members get the professional development they need that is timely, that is appropriate for them and makes them get better. And that's what we want to do for all of those things too. So in many ways, supporting teachers and redirecting funds sometimes does not involve just supplies. In this case, I think we have to do that in many ways, make sure that all of our employees, not just teachers, have what they need to be successful, but also providing the support and PD that they need to be successful.
Just to follow up, as a school leader yourself, where do you think the issue came from with teachers not feeling like they're getting the supplies they needed? That's
something that, I can only comment at this time by what I see in our survey results, and then what, I make sure to do. A lot of that, I think, is to really ensure that we are budgeting appropriately. I think training our school leaders to make sure that they know that a central component of my plan will be to make sure and ensure that all teachers, staff members get what they need to be successful. So I can't answer that exactly at this point. That's going to come through real hard discussions we have and talking to school leaders. I felt like in the schools that I led, teachers had those things that they needed. So many times it might be working with school leaders to make sure that they're doing the things that are necessary to make sure that happens. If not, then it will be incumbent on us to make sure that they get those things.
You mentioned the state audits. What approach are you going to take to that? Have you met with Dr. Pruitt at the state level yet? Have you met with anybody at the state level prior to maybe being interviewed as a possible principal in this? What are your plans with how the district moves forward with this audit?
Sure. Spoken with Dr. Pruitt on the phone and had the opportunity to meet with Secretary Heiner a couple weeks ago. And so I had very good meetings with them and obviously laid out the plans that I have for the district. I think they've been very supportive of the things that I've said and where we want to go, and they agree with those things, to my understanding. So I can't say exactly that I know what's going to be in the audit when it is released. The only way I know how to move forward with this is to use it as a roadmap. Obviously, getting the audit results, studying those, and making sure that we use the recommendations of the KDE to move our district forward. So we have to take it as a roadmap and use it as a way to get better and improve. I did the same at Doss High School when we were audited last year. We got a lot of positive results out of our audit at Doss High School, but we also had to use those recommendations for priority improvements as a way to get better. We'll have to do the same thing as a district and take those improvement areas very seriously in order to move forward.
So by you saying that, does this mean that you're not concerned that the state could come over and take over?
Well, sure, it's a concern. I mean, I think as I have not gotten that indication. Now, I can't say that that won't happen, so obviously that would be a concern. But at this point, you know, there's not, I can't take action in that area until I find out exactly what's in the audit. So what I can do is ensure you that I will work passionately on moving this district forward until we find out what's in that audit. We'll adjust appropriately and do the things necessary to implement those improvement plans that the KDE recommends.
Now, certainly you weren't, you know, the leader here when the KDE audit started, but do you have any feelings about the state's decision to come in here and do these reviews and audits?
I can't, I don't know exactly what they identified as reasons why. So obviously, as a high school principal, I was in one part of this district. I thought we were very successful at Doss High School. But I can't say exactly, you know, the concerns or the areas that they identified or needed to see. So all I can do at this point is take the results of the audit and make sure that those improvement areas get implemented.
JCPS employees have indicated many times that they feel like they were not supported. This is obviously, you pointed it out in the survey results, the past 2 to 3 years. Also in comprehensive school survey results, you can kind of see those numbers dipping. How do you plan to address that? Do you just plan on having kind of an open door with people? Are you going to utilize members on your cabinet more to help address that? How do you plan on attacking this issue of low morale in JCPS?
Well, first and foremost, I agree with that. I mean, we, as I said, we have the data indicates that we have culture and morale issues within many of our schools, and especially when you look at it over several years. And you track the data, the survey data, we have work to do in that area. So first and foremost will be to work with leaders. When morale is down in schools, it's obviously going to reflect in central office numbers. So on the ground and in our schools, ensuring that school leaders are working to improve culture, climate, morale in all of their schools will be job number one. We are already working with our assistant superintendents, so they know that that's a priority, and working with their principals to make sure that we do that, because that's where the work is done, in schools, in the classrooms, with all of our teachers, students, and principals. So number one is going to be to make sure that schools have that laser-like focus on culture, climate, and morale. Second of all will be that we are very present in schools. So we have to get back to making sure that if we're going to make policy about schools, if we're going to implement changes in schools, that central office staff, employees, myself, cabinet level positions are in schools as often as possible. Obviously, we have jobs to do, and that can't be every single day, but that we're present in schools to know what's going on, to understand the culture, climate, and morale of our all of our schools and facilities. So being present, but also being there gives us the opportunity to listen and to hear what people have had to say. Over the past 6 weeks, and really in the past 48 hours, the amount of JCPS staff members that have reached out to me has been inspirational in a way. Obviously, I've heard a lot about the problems that are occurring with culture, climate, and morale, but I think they see this as a very positive thing moving forward, and hope that I'm able to do what I did at the school level, at a district level. So working with our school leaders and also being present in our schools throughout the school year is going to be critical.
Can you talk a little bit about the Young Males of Color Academy and your thoughts on it and how much of a role or priority you'll have in developing it?
Sure. Well, I will have a huge priority in developing it. That will be my job, as I made clear in the board meeting. So our board was, I believe, has been on about a 2-year exploration of really exploring the Males of Color Academy, Carter G. Woodson in Lexington. And our board has been very clear that they are not satisfied right now with the achievement gap numbers that are occurring. It's a nationwide issue right now, but it is present in Jefferson County Public Schools with our achievement differences between African American males and white males, and the achievement gap in many of our gap area students. So one of the areas they wanted to explore was the implementation of a Males of Color Academy here in Jefferson County. So after much exploration, decided to go ahead and pass that concept, which I support. We're going to move forward. It will be my job to make sure that is implemented successfully and that it becomes a model program, not only for Jefferson County that hopefully we can spread to other schools, but throughout this nation it becomes a model program. So job number one will be to hire a principal and get a principal planning and working towards August 2018 to get that implemented and be successful. So we plan to do that as soon as possible.
You said you support this idea, but the research is pretty mixed on a males-only academy, especially for minority students. Why this concept that you support? Well,
like I said, I came in at the very end of this exploration process. So by the time I came on board, it was most of the study and an exploration had been complete. From the data I've seen from Lexington, it has been very successful. So just like any other program, not any other program, but most programs in schools, success comes with implementation and how it's implemented, how it's supported. The leader in the school is a huge part of the success of any program within a school. I think that's one of the main reasons it's been successful. So that will be incumbent on me and my team to make sure that we implement properly if we expect to see results. We will do that. And so we're already having conversations about that and how we're going to move forward. But we expect to see big results out of this academy in the near future.
I think during the meeting you had mentioned, that Fayette County can be used as kind of a example, but that it needs to be Jefferson County's. Is that what you mean by that? Is like the district would kind of make it its own in implementation?
Well, yes. We are going, obviously, Jefferson County is not Fayette County. One of the things that I've wanted to make sure we do as a district as I move forward is to make sure that we don't completely shelter ourselves from everyone else in the state. We look to other counties in the state, other programs in the state for success. Just because we are much larger than any other school district in this state does not mean that we can't collaborate with other districts for success. So Fayette County has a successful model. That doesn't mean that we aren't going to continue to collaborate with them, work with them, and implement many of the reasons why Carter G. Woodson is successful. But in the same sense, we have to make this our own. We have to make sure that we do what's right for the students of Jefferson County. So many of the things that will happen will be very similar and align with Carter G. Woodson. But along the way, we're going to have to own this as our own. And from this point forward, the success of this program is not on Fayette County or Rosaiken or anyone else from Fayette. The success of this program is on Jefferson County Public Schools, specifically me and my staff.
Dr. Pollio, how do you go about formulating a student assignment plan process that doesn't anger significant parts of the community?
It's a good question. Love to have an answer for you on that one. I've already found how difficult that will be in my conversations with many community members who want different things in a student assignment plan. So that is never easy. First and foremost, it is clear that we are going to have to do some significant studies of our student assignment plan. We have a couple of options. We can wait to have the legislators make that decision for us, or we can explore our student assignment plan, find things that are problems in it right now, look to fix it, and address many of these issues ourselves. Our board members have some tenets of student assignment that they are committed to, and so I am committed to those also to make sure that we implement those in any student assignment plan. I believe that we cannot do a student assignment plan separate from a facilities plan. So we have facilities that are obviously, that has been addressed many times in front of our board that are aging, that need to be addressed. We've had population shifts within our community. And so I believe a student assignment plan is going to have to work in conjunction with a facilities plan as we move forward and address some significant issues that have changed in our community since the last time a student assignment plan was implemented. Those will happen in the very near future as we work on those together and to address the plans. We would like to get the community involved, as many as possible, into our discussions and our committees as we work through these so that we can hear and listen to our community members about the student assignment plan.
You mentioned that one of your third priority, I think, was better communication. Where did you see the weak spots in our communication being?
Well, I think many times it's messaging. And so I know I've said culture and climate many times in the past 6 weeks. And so I've always been a believer in the more we talk about it and say it, the more it will be clear to all stakeholders that this is what is important. So number one, a message of culture, climate, morale, deeper learning is going to be heard many times. And so communications and press briefings, number one, will give me the opportunity to send a message to schools, to families and stakeholders that this is important. But to also, I've always said that one of the things we have to do in Jefferson County Public Schools is to address our areas where we need growth. This is a part of it. To stand up and address the areas where we need to grow and improve will be number one. That's a huge part, I think, of communication, and to continue to lay out a plan about how we plan on improving. Along with that, though, communication is with schools. We have 155 schools, I believe it is, and 16,000 employees, so communication is never easy. But what we want to do is be better at long-term planning on significant initiatives and getting feedback and input from stakeholders, especially within our schools. So I think all too often from the school level, we felt like decisions have been made without input from stakeholders at the school level, whether that be principals, teachers, students, parents, whatever that might be. And so communication is laying out systems and structures so that we can get that input prior to making any significant decisions.
What are you doing about a new academic leader?
Chief Academic Officer, we plan to have an announcement, hopefully by the end of the week, but in the very near future, about who will be hiring as Chief Academic Officer.
Business also?
To be determined at a later date.
I have a quick question about student behavior. In some of these school board meetings, we kept seeing the suspension numbers rise and hear teachers come and talk to the board about problems with out-of-control classrooms. What's the next step in kind of trying to solve some of these student behavior issues?
Well, I have always been a believer that student management of behavior usually comes with what happens before the event and the structures that are in place at the school level to prevent discipline problems. So we have 101,000 students. I always said as a principal, I've got 1,100 to 1,500 teenagers in one building. Obviously, there will be issues with discipline that we will have to deal with. But structures, systems in place, relationships with students do a lot to prevent that. And so the survey data at Doss High School said that the vast majority of teachers felt that students followed the rules of behavior. So I think I know this can be done in Jefferson County Public Schools. So first and foremost is we will be focusing on the structures, the systems that occur in schools, the building of relationships that adults can have in a school to prevent problems from happening. So way too much discussion, I think, happens after the discipline event and how how adults are going to respond to that. That is a part of discipline. We can't move away from that. But effective classroom, school management of behavior usually comes with systems that are put in place by adults And make no mistake about it, the number one way to help with student behavior is effective instruction in the classrooms. When we have deeper learning concepts going on in the classroom where students feel they are working on relevant instructional activities, I think and I know behavior improves. So we're gonna do some significant work on systems, structures, support of teachers. That's a big part of this, but also continuous work to improve the instructional abilities of teachers in all of our schools, and to provide that support, I believe will help with student behavior.
Good.
Great. Thank you all. See you in a couple weeks.